Good evening. My name is Rosalind Franklin, and I'm the president of the JCRC Board of Directors. I'm so happy to welcome you here this evening. Thank you. I'm so happy to welcome you here this evening, and thank you all for joining us and for supporting JCRC's vital work, in addition to appreciating and celebrating tonight's honorees. JCRC's work is as important now as it was at its inception over 70 years ago, serving as the public affairs arm of the Jewish community. What makes JCRC so important is its ability to mobilize the Jewish community on some of the most critical issues, including immigration, gun control, Israel, LGBT rights, and amplify its many diverse voices in the public sphere. The JCRC has garnered respect and trust over the span of its years due to the careful and thoughtful approach that it has taken to handle the many sensitive and important issues with a positive outcome and impact. I'm fortunate to have been involved with JCRC in many different roles for over a decade, and it is such a privilege to be president of an organization I believe truly represents the heart, head, and soul of the Bay Area Jewish community, and continues to grow and expand its reach with a clear focus and intent on the betterment of the community that it serves. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Israel Consul General, Dr. Andy David, and Deputy Consul General Eyal Naor. Along with the many elected and appointed Bay Area public officials seated among us this evening. Thank you to Donnie and Janie Friend, our wonderful co-chairs, for their tremendous leadership and assistance in making this evening happen. They have worked tirelessly for the success of this celebration, and it is a true reflection of their commitment to JCRC, its values, and the broader Jewish community. Thank you both. Special thanks also to JCRC Board Development Chair Howard Kleckner for all of your help and dedication from start to finish, not only for tonight's effort, but for your leadership throughout the year. The JCRC Board and Metropolitan Council for their support. And thank you, John Feldman, Abby Porth, Doug Kahn, Mackenzie Means, Elka Lux, and the entire JCRC staff for ensuring that special attention was paid to all of the behind-the-scenes essential and special details and touches to ensure tonight's success. I look out into the audience this evening. I can't really see you, and I see an incredible cross-section of leaders, partners, community members, and friends, which is truly reflective of JCRC's broad tent of support. It is thanks to all of you that JCRC is able to fulfill its mission in pursuit of a just society and a secure Jewish future. Thank you again for being with us, and I hope you enjoy the remainder of the evening. I would now like to introduce with great pleasure Rabbi Doug Kahn, JCRC's Executive Director for over 30 years, a true community leader and a treasure of our Bay Area Jewish community. Thank you.
Good evening. I just want to begin by saying that Rosalind not only speaks beautifully, she leads beautifully. Stupendous, eloquent, tireless, passionate. We are so fortunate to have you as our president. Thank you so much, Rosalind. Let me begin by adding my profound thanks to everyone who made tonight possible, including everyone who has joined us to support the important work of JCRC, to celebrate our achievements, and to honor our exceptional awardees. We are so grateful to all of you, veteran supporters, new friends, colleagues, and the growing number of individuals who have included or might consider including JCRC in their legacy giving so that we will be strong in perpetuity. Community relations has been at the core of our experience as a people, from Joseph to Queen Esther to today, and will continue to play an indispensable role in our well-being and that of our society. A glimpse of the last few months will hopefully give a taste of our work and broaden awareness of how our behind-the-scenes work touches lives every day. When the Jewish home faced an existential crisis, Due to draconian cuts in state funding, they turned to JCRC to co-lead their 4-month-long, high-stakes advocacy effort that yielded a remarkably positive outcome for all the senior residents. When a tragedy occurred at a Jewish camp this past summer, JCRC became a 24/7 consultant to help address the onslaught of media attention. When Hillels from Berkeley to Stanford were confronted with the latest anti-Israel initiatives on campus, they leaned on JCRC as their go-to strategic consultants. Dozens of Jewish institutions serve our community from cradle to grave brilliantly. One community relations organization is here for all of them, for all of us every day, JCRC. When United Way looked for partners in its campaign to cut Bay Area poverty in half by 2020, JCRC was invited to be the voice of our community in this important effort to improve the quality of life in the Bay Area. And when anti-gay measures in Russia dangerously expanded, JCRC organized a town hall meeting at the LGBT Center to share lessons from the Soviet Jewry movement with local LGBT leaders aimed at stimulating a new movement for human rights. How rewarding to take the blueprint of one of the greatest advocacy movements in our history and watch new leadership step up quickly with that blueprint in hand. Hundreds of institutions serve our broader community in pursuit of equal opportunity, civil rights, and a just society. JCRC is, as it is for the Jewish community, a trusted resource and valued partner committed to ensuring that we will continue to have a strong Jewish communal voice at the table, advancing our community's passionate and historic commitment to quality public education, vigilance against anti-Semitism and bigotry, civil rights for all, an enlightened approach to immigration, a strong American-Israel relationship, and promoting sustained Jewish civic engagement toward these goals. We strategize, we advocate, we build coalitions, we mobilize. We seek successful outcomes with a maximum efficiency, employing a broad tent and nuanced activist approach to advance the broad agenda that reflects our community's values and JCRC's deep commitment to promote a just society and secure a Jewish future. Working mostly behind the scenes to build and build upon relationships, we are laser focused on achieving our goals, goals that continuously redound to the benefit of the Jewish community and our entire Bay Area. Our work may be behind the scenes, but the results are visible for all of us to see. You've seen it in the approved capacity of our community to discuss difficult issues civilly, thanks to our year of civil discourse. You've seen it in the ability of Hillel directors to turn their attention to positive programming because they know we have their backs when issues take an ugly turn on campus and bias against Israel flares up. You've seen it in the reality that American textbooks are much more accurate about Jews, Judaism, and Israel because of our Institute for Curriculum Services initiative. You've seen it in the Jewish Coalition for Literacy's volunteers, who each year help more than 1,000 children in public schools dramatically improve their literacy. Sometimes proactive, our Israel trips for civic leaders, sometimes responsive, countering the mounting efforts of the BDS movement in the Bay Area to delegitimize Israel, often innovative, our year of civil discourse, and yes, mostly behind the scenes, JCRC's work touches all of us. Jewish civic responsibility is part of our historical legacy as Jews. Put simply, it is where our deepest values meets our common interests. Nowhere on earth does Jewish civic engagement have a richer history than in San Francisco, with perhaps the ultimate example being that of a family of a German immigrant pantsmaker, Levi Strauss, whose descendant Doug Goldman we honor tonight. Doug, you carry on, in partnership with Lisa, an extraordinary family tradition, one that you have now passed on to your children and that inspires all of us. A tradition that goes way beyond philanthropy into modeling what it means to wake up every day determined to make a difference in the Jewish and civic communities and beyond. We are thrilled not just to honor you, but to share with the hundreds of people gathered here a behind-the-scenes look at your leadership. JCRC's impact is magnified every day by our outstanding lay leadership and tremendous staff, and by the relationships we have built throughout the community. Two of the very special relationships we treasure are with Dennis Herrera and Terry Stewart. Public officials whose integrity and professionalism are legendary, Dennis and Terry played an historic role in one of the defining civil rights issues of our time, and how appropriate that today is the 10th anniversary of the issuance of the first same-sex marriage licenses in San Francisco. Dennis and Terry, that JCRC has worked closely with you numerous times in pursuit of common goals has been a true blessing and a model of behind-the-scenes results. We are truly honored to honor you tonight. There's so much more to say about Doug, Dennis, and Terry's exemplary leadership, but I will let our two 10-minute videos, we had enough great material for 2 feature films, tell the story of what a difference they have made and continue to make. Universal in particular, just society and secure Jewish future, they are intertwined ideals and meet every day at JCRC as we roll up our sleeves and go to work. With your help, we will continue to embody the oft-quoted Talmudic phrase of Rabbi Hillel that truly does help define what makes us tick. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? It is now my great pleasure to turn the evening over to our event co-chairs, tremendous leaders in the community in their own right, who have done a wonderful job in helping shape tonight's event from beginning to execution. We are so grateful to have our friends, Donnie and Janie Friend, as our event chairs.
We are Donnie
and Janie Friend,
and are delighted to be co-chairing this JCRC Behind the Scenes celebration. JCRC is the organization that we rely on to keep a vigilant eye whenever it appears that our community is threatened. When the JCRC gets involved, rights are protected, ambiguity clarified, and civility maintained. Directed from a versatile platform, JCRC works respectfully, efficiently, and effectively. We are proud of the many things that the JCRC does and thank all of you for celebrating this important organization with us tonight.
a special thank you to those who have generously joined us as a premier sponsor, Dr. Kathy Fields Rant and Dr. Gary Rant, the Lisa and Douglas Goldman Fund, and Ingrid Tauber and Frank Taforo, as well as star sponsors David and Ann Becker, Jason, Jennifer, and Matthew Goldman, Marcia and John Goldman, Lisa and John Pritzker, and Diane and Howard Zach. A big thank you to our many generous sponsors and host committee, all who are listed in your program. We are extremely grateful to all of you who have helped make JCRC's work possible.
Tonight, we are bringing 3 extraordinary community champions into the spotlight for much-deserved honor and recognition. Douglas Goldman for his remarkable leadership in our Jewish community and beyond, and Dennis Herrera and Terry Stewart for their courageous leadership in using the law to promote justice and equality. Like the JCRC, they get things done. Tonight, we will tell their stories of values, courage, and leadership, and their partnership with JCRC in pursuit of a just society and a secure Jewish future. And now it is our pleasure to introduce Michael Jacobs, past president of the JCRC and an attorney with MoFo, Morrison and Forrester, for the presentation of the JCRC Courageous Leadership Award. Michael?
I'm so pleased to present our award to our honorees. My name is Michael Jacobs. I'm a past chair of the JCRC. I am an attorney, and I served as lead counsel in the lawsuit that the JCRC initiated to keep an anti-circumcision initiative off of the San Francisco election ballot. Through that effort, I learned firsthand what we have heard about Dennis Herrera and Terry Stewart, our city attorney and deputy city attorney, that what we have heard about them is true, that they lead one of the finest, perhaps the finest, city attorney's offices in the country. They have recruited an outstanding team of lawyers, a group that is the envy of San Francisco's law firms. And they have taken on issues and challenges that are extraordinary and momentous and epoch-making and make us all proud to be part of their community. And among the things that they and their department have accomplished is the representation of minorities in struggles for freedom and equality, minorities that may appear at times to be sizable and influential, but in reality are small and often feel embattled. Minorities such as the Jewish community and the LGBT community. There is no more important role for a city attorney's office. Let's roll the video and learn more about why JCRC is honoring Dennis and Terry tonight with the Courageous Leadership Award.
Tonight, 10 years to the day since San Francisco issued its first same-sex marriage licenses, it is fitting that the JCRC honor courageous officials like Dennis and Terry, who stand at the forefront of the struggle for justice. It is a reminder of the importance of allies in government and among our communities, and of the daily efforts of the JCRC to build those alliances and secure a brighter future for all.
If you would have told me when I first became city attorney that the thing that I would be most noted for would be same-sex marriage, I would have had no idea.
It was this land that I didn't expect to be in, of a hugely important constitutional challenge on an issue that was very close to my heart.
When they see a goal, and the goal in this case was to win the right to marry for same-sex couples in California, they are unstoppable.
We wouldn't have been successful if we didn't have a broad cross-section of people support the legal effort. Business, clergy, religious groups. JCRC was a key component of that fight.
The JCRC was one of the very first faith-based organizations representing the Jewish community that was involved in marriage equality.
They were steadfast in assisting us into knocking down one of the last barriers of inequality.
It was with great excitement that we watched Dennis Herrera and Terry Stewart in their groundbreaking fight for marriage equality.
Once the state has entered into the business, which it long ago did, of regulating marriage and of denying and granting access to marriage, it has to do that on an equal basis.
We were on the sidelines rooting them on and trying to help bring a faith presence to their fight.
Dennis really laid his political future on the line in standing up for what now we can look back and say, well, it's inevitable, of course. Anyone who wants to be on the right side of history would support the right of same-sex couples to marry, but that's not the way it was in 2004.
It would have been really easy for him to kind of do what everyone had done before and handle something the way that most government lawyers handle things.
I think back that there were a lot of people that, at the time, that didn't think it was the right thing to do.
One of the real joys of working under Terry and Dennis is that time and time again, they look for opportunities to make a difference and really take a stand.
The highlight for me was in 2008 when we learned that the court had ruled in our favor on the constitutional issue.
I issued an opinion at 10 in the morning.
What happened?
Are we going over there?
Do you have a decision?
The court reversed.
That's reverse?
What did this?
45 minutes later, my daughter called me she was going to school at Cornell. I may cry. And told me she was being stopped on campus. And saying, gee, San Francisco, look what happened. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, the world was on top of all of this for what was done in San Francisco. And Dennis and Teresa Stewart were right there.
I heard a huge holler go up from the Civic Center Plaza.
I thought to myself, even though the anti-gay people are out there, they don't have the numbers to make that kind of a yell. I think we won.
It was impossible for me to not get emotional. And Terry was actually less emotional than me. And she said, "What are you getting so emotional for? You're already married."
I was at the U.S. Supreme Court hearing on the final disposition on Prop 8, and I turned around, and there's Dennis and Teresa sitting there. I was so proud of them.
When you see somebody happy and you see the difference you make in their lives when you perform a marriage and know that you played a role in that, something you'll never forget.
What made the challenge to win marriage in California so powerful was to have standing with us elected officials, to have standing with us an entire city, to have the city attorney be the face of what was the right thing to do. That set an example for city attorneys and for elected officials all over the country. And up until that time, it wasn't like that was a very common partnership. They really broke new ground by doing that.
For decades, JCRC has been bringing elected officials, civic and faith leaders to Israel on in-depth political study tours. Dennis came with us in 2004, and Terry came with us in 2009. And I had the privilege of traveling on the 2004 trip, and I was so struck by how well-read and thoughtful and deeply analytical Dennis was about this experience. But I was probably the most moved when I saw how deeply touched he was by this experience of understanding firsthand the meaning and the importance and gravity of Israel to the Jewish people.
The lessons that I learned there, the feelings that I had, the sense of history, the sense of our place in history and how our place interacting with different faiths, I think, in different communities, is something that you really get in touch with.
After I went to Israel, I started reading more carefully the news about Israel, and I felt like I understood the conflicts better. Not all of them and not completely, but much better than I had before. I felt like my education about the Holocaust and about the need for a Jewish homeland really blossomed.
When JCRC learned that there was a proposed ballot measure which would have criminalized circumcision in San Francisco, we leaped into action. We filed a lawsuit to have this measure removed from the ballot, and we also initiated a full political campaign to educate voters about this outrageous attack on parental choice and religious freedom. But it was really the full weight of the Office of the City Attorney in filing a brief in support of our lawsuit that was just incredibly crucial to our success.
As some may recall, I ran for mayor in 2011, and for political reasons, we had made an office-wide decision that I would recuse myself from taking positions in any ballot measures.
Terry Stewart was instrumental in deciding that this was an issue that we needed to weigh in on, and that even though government law offices usually stand by and stand aside in these sorts of cases, this was a measure that would unfairly target a religious practice, and we had an obligation to chime in.
The website of the man who was sort of behind the circumcision ban, these comic books, he called them, that were demonizing Jewish people for their practice of circumcision. All the bad characters were Jewish and were dark-skinned and dark-haired, and all of the superheroes in these comic books were blonde, Aryan, and it was so reminiscent of Nazi propaganda.
Terry, in addition to her ferocity, there's just an uncompromising integrity and a desire to do things at the very highest level.
She's an incredibly able advocate. She has a sharp mind. She has great analytical skills. She's incredibly articulate. She's very poised in the courtroom.
In a really stunning victory, the court agreed with the JCRC's arguments and the city attorney's arguments and invalidated the measure before it even went to the voters.
And had this measure remained on the ballot, it would have dramatically changed our Jewish community's sense of security.
It isn't simply any one or two or three cases. It's a whole series of cases involving workers' rights, wage theft issues, immigrant rights, consumer rights, the rights of tenants. These are the kinds of things that they really are interested in, the causes they're interested in advancing. They're looking at issues that I don't think most city attorneys or county council are really looking at.
They have this shared passion for doing the right thing, and that's not always the popular thing.
To me, he's a personal hero. He has a lot of guts, and a lot of politicians feel like, no, you have to please everybody. You can't, step on anybody's toes. And Dennis isn't like that. We have a responsibility, we have a power, and we're going to use it.
I can't imagine going through these 12 years in this office on all the issues that I've worked with anybody else, because her values are my values. I know where her heart is. I know what an incredible mind she has, and I know what a great person she is. I've been the lucky one to have her alongside me over the course of the last 12 years.
There is no public law office in Northern California, and probably the state, and maybe the nation, that is the match of the city attorney's office in this city.
Dennis and Terry, if you could come up. Let me just explain briefly what we have for you in recognition of your accomplishments and what you've done for this and other communities. It's a glass tzedakah box, tzedakah being the word for charitable giving in Hebrew, and it's emblazoned on it is an image of San Francisco, the bridge, the Palace of Fine Arts. We think you've brought those two concepts together. You've brought the idea of justice and caring for the other together with the city and its name, and you've made us really a symbol, a beacon to the rest of the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Michael, thank you, and JCRC, thank you so much for this wonderful award. And I have to tell you, that was some video. And the thing that stood out the most for me is I had to ask Doug and Abby, since when did you start flying 747 LL jets nonstop to Israel? And no more Toronto on Air Canada. I mean, I'm very, very impressed. But that shows the success of what JCRC is really all about. And this is really a tremendous honor. I can't tell you how gratified and how thankful I am, and I know Terry is, and she's going to speak in a moment, to be receiving this award from this organization on this day. It is a truly historic day where San Francisco can take a great deal of pride that once again it led in the quest for justice. And that was not just that was not really just a victory for the people in my office and a 10-year legal battle that we've ultimately been successful on. It's not just a success of politicians and lawyers that have been fighting the fight. It really is a victory and something to celebrate for the entirety of our community, straight and LGBT alike. San Francisco has once again led the way. And who would have thought 10 years ago that we would have, when we started on this battle, that now we'd have 17 states in the District of Columbia recognizing that we need true equality here in this country. But I think we all know that we're not there yet. And none of us are going to stop the fight and stop the battle. And that's where all of you come in and what JCRC stands for. Whether it be marriage equality or civil rights or fighting to protect people's health care opportunities, you name the issue. San Francisco has been a leader, but more specifically, JCRC has been at the forefront of standing alongside those of us in public life and those of us in the community that fight for progressive values. And I want to thank the JCRC for its fight and the fact that it has always been there representing the best interests of the Jewish community, but the greater community at large. We wouldn't be as successful as we have been. We wouldn't be able to fight the great progressive battles that we have fought if we didn't have a steadfast partner standing alongside us. And Doug and Abby and JCRC and everybody in this room has been there with us. And the traditions of the Jewish community here in San Francisco and what JCRC has stood for and fought for have been the values that I fight for and that are part of what my public being is and my private being as well. So I want to thank you so much for this wonderful award. I can't imagine a better night to get it. And I look forward to standing alongside JCRC and the broader Jewish community to make sure that we are fighting for the values that we all believe in here in San Francisco or across this country, and that we make sure that we're fighting for progressive values across the globe. Thanks very much.
This is so incredible. I feel like an honorary Jew, which means more to me than I can say. I want to tell you two little short stories. One has to do with working on the circumcision ban. What the movie didn't depict was that when Doug and Abby first met with me, and Dennis was somewhat pulled out of the issue because he was running for mayor and there were certain walls in place. So I had to channel Dennis in making that decision. And initially I said, we can't get involved because our office does the title and summary on these measures, and when they're challenged, we typically defend them in court if they're challenged after they're enacted. And so we stay out of pre-election battles, and I would like to get involved, but I can't. But somewhere down the pike, two things happened. One is Molly Lee, who you saw in the video, who worked with me on the matter, and I were thinking about if the case was held, if the legislation was held preempted as to doctors, that would leave only religious practitioners of circumcision who would be affected by the ban, which, given the likelihood that it was preempted as to medical doctors, it really did seem targeted at the Jewish community. And secondly, it came to my attention, our attention, that the primary backer of this measure was a man who had put these comic books that were depicted. And a lot of the language in describing the characters in those comic books were things like cunning and depraved and sadistic and powerful. And those stereotypes were so resonant of Nazi propaganda. And frankly, they also are stereotypes that are frequently used against the LGBT community in much similar ways to as how they've been used against the Jewish community. And in the face of that, I decided, and discussing it with Molly, that we did have to weigh in, and channeling Dennis, because it's one thing to adopt a measure that is broadly applicable, but if you're adopting a measure that targets a group based on these horrible stereotypes, we couldn't sit by the sidelines. The second thing I wanted to say is that early on in the marriage battle, I think it was Doug actually who asked me to come to the JCRC board meeting and debate the marriage equality issue. It was somewhere around 2005 or 2006 when we were litigating with a lawyer on the other side. And that prior to our debate, there would be two rabbis, a conservative rabbi and an Orthodox rabbi, debating the issue on religious grounds. So we went to the event, and we heard the rabbis debate first, and the rabbis kind of went back and forth talking about the meaning of the Torah. And the conservative rabbi talked about the Torah as a living document that has application of principles to current circumstances, and you have to read it and interpret it in light of today. And the Orthodox rabbi had a more sort of strict letter of the law and his own view of what it meant, in my opinion. And I thought to myself as I was listening to them, you know, it sounds like Justice Scalia and Justice Breyer debating the meaning of the Constitution. And I remember saying when I, either before or after our part of the debate, that, you know, if I was going to join a religion, it would be Judaism. And the reason is because unlike the faith I was brought up in, which was Catholicism, in Judaism, you question things, you think about things, you bring your heart and your mind. And I'm so honored to be here and to be given this award, because all of what the JCRC represents is the best of what I know of Judaism. And again, if I were going to be part of an organized religion, it would be Judaism. But since I'm not, I'll just hope to be part of the JCRC for a good long time. So thank you.
Mazel tov, Terry and Dennis. To help us celebrate the anniversary of the first same-sex civil marriage in San Francisco, we have a special treat for you. Please welcome SWAG, a fabulous ensemble of the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus.
I'm gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good, gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street without enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top, and one man's soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they've got no place to go. That's why I want you to know, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. Na 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 na. Ba-da-ba-da. I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love, the kind that I realize. There's some with no hope, without a nickel to loan. Could it be really me, pretending that they're not alone? A willow's disregard, somebody's broken heart, and a one-man's soul. They follow the pattern of the wind, you see, 'cause they've got no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change. I'm starting with the man. and make the change. Do, 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 do. Na 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 na. Oh, 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 do, 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 do. Na 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 na. Oh, make that change. Make that change. Desert with no shoes upon my feet, to share with you the last bite of bread I had to eat. And I would swim out to save you in your sea of broken dreams. When all your hopes are sinking, let me show you what love means. Love can build a between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Love can build a bridge. Yes, we know love can build a bridge. And I would whisper love so loudly so that they may understand that love and only love can join the tribes of man. And I would give my heart's desire so that they may see. The first thing is to realize that it all begins with you and me. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Yes, it's time. When we stand together, it's our finest hour. We can do anything, 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 anything. Keep believing in the power love can build. Yes, love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Love can build a bridge. Yes, it's time. Yes, it's time. Love can build. Yes, love can build a bridge. Yes, we know love can build a bridge. Yes, it's time. Yes, it's time.
Fabulous. Thank you, Swag. And now we are pleased to present a film honoring Douglas Goldman, a personal friend and outstanding Jewish and civic leader, truly deserving of the JCRC Jewish Civic Leadership Award, inspired by our very own Rita Semmel.
The Jewish Civic Leadership Award is a fitting tribute to Doug's vision, determination, and success. Doug is an extraordinary philanthropist who is personally involved in the causes he holds most dear, from supporting UC Berkeley to advocating for Israel to preserving our planet. With great pride, Doug carries forward the legacy of his beloved parents, Richard and Rhoda. A legacy of environmental justice with the annual Goldman Prize, a legacy of his family with the Stern Grove Festival, a legacy founded in strong Jewish values, a legacy Doug and Lisa are passing on to their children.
I've worked with Doug on many different issues. At football games, he and I often jointly call plays together and are upset when the coach doesn't follow our advice.
Doug is behind that kind of self-effacing, shy exterior is a very, very strong commitment to social justice, to Jewish values, to the kind of world that many of us are fighting for, and he is fighting for among the hardest.
He's had wonderful mentoring through his own family, through Rhoda and Richard. He's had a brother and a sister who are also philanthropic in their own way, but they like this idea of civic participation. They all want to do something that's bigger than themselves.
I had the privilege of working closely with both Richard and Rhoda Goldman, and I know they would be so proud of Doug's accomplishments and leadership.
My father always talks extremely fondly about his mother, someone that I think really inspired him.
It would be my mother that I considered the truly great philanthropist.
Her selflessness and devotion to things she believed in that really inspired him to be who he is.
What's unique about our family, and that we can look up to our grandparents as our heroes, not Michael Jordan, which I'm sure is a hero of his as well.
Doug was trained as a doctor, and particularly with regard to emergency doctoring, because he reaches out to people in need. That's his instinct.
Anytime we were on the road and there was a car accident, without fail, he would pull over.
And it's not just helping individuals. He wants to, in a very profoundly Jewish sense, change the world for the better.
But Doug knows very well, because of his legacy, that it's one thing to be a person of success, but it's more important to be a person of value. And he's following that value tradition of a wonderful family in terms of reaching out to the general public and for the public good, not only here in San Francisco and the Bay Area, but nationally and internationally.
I think my mom is the perfect balance to my dad. They're so different, but I think it works because they share the same values.
You know, what are those values? Those values are Jewish values that have been in our family for 6 generations, that have been passed down, you know, from generation to generation.
He's a very intense and passionate person and has strong opinions about things. And so I love people who are intense and who are passionate.
He's principled, he's smart, he's shrewd. You know, he thinks about these things and takes it very serious.
Doug is fearless, and so he's willing to step out and to state his beliefs.
It's not about getting his name in the lights, but it's about doing the right thing.
This has been particularly evident in his defense of academic freedom and his defense of fairness in society.
There is something terribly important about a public university, and there's something particularly important about the best public university in the world, which is the University of California at Berkeley. The students we have here, the diversity of economic background, the extraordinary appreciation they have for even being here, their determination to change the world. Well, it's because of people like Doug and Lisa that this is possible.
When an attempt was made to pass a Divest from Israel resolution at the UC Student Senate, we reached out to Doug Goldman.
I get involved in things that are important to me. Cal is not only my alma mater, I think it's a very special institution.
For Doug, it was a perfect storm. It was a shadow cast on his beloved and my beloved university, Cal. It was a singling out of Israel, which in his mind and ours was a sense of profound injustice.
as a Jew of the Bay Area, the opportunity to make sure that my alma mater does not go down the wrong path on this and stands for that which I consider to be just and right was very important.
I remember two very specific things that he did that were enormously helpful in the successful effort to defeat the resolution. First was he worked very closely with his father, Richard, who had just been named Cal Alumnus of the Year, on a strong letter to the student government urging them to defeat the resolution.
So I took the opportunity to try to fashion that expression on behalf of my father into something that would just tune it a little bit better, shall we say.
And secondly, Doug spoke personally to the student body president, laying out all the reasons that he thought he should veto the resolution, an action that the student body president undertook.
He was effective as president of the Goldman Environmental Prize, writing letters to foreign governments around certain prize winners or environmental issues. Again, I think there's a parallel between JCRC and the Environmental Prize and this kind of grassroots mentality that certainly is all interconnected.
I'd rather do instead of say. I'd rather have my actions speak for me.
He's special in that sense because it's not coming from a place of privilege, it's coming from a place of how do we get this done.
Whether it's behind the scenes, whether it's in the forefront, he's going to get it done.
I have this personal theory of life that as you look at any individual, the first circle is the one that is around themselves. And the next circle is one of family. And then as you keep going out from there, to me, the next circle is the Jewish community. And then lastly is the greater community.
Doug is a role model for the Jewish alumni at Cal because Doug cares deeply about the Cal community and he supports that in a significant way. And at the same time, he cares about the Jewish community at campus. And for him, as a Cal alumni, what is critically important is not only supporting the Cal community and not only supporting the Jewish community on campus, but supporting both of them as a manifestation of his Cal pride as well as his Jewish commitment.
It is remarkable to me how closely aligned JCRC's values and Doug's family's own values are.
To me, JCRC is in many ways the voice of the Jewish community. What would the world be like if we didn't have it?
Promoting a just society and a secure Jewish future is what we both stand for. I can't imagine doing the work we do, and I can't imagine San Francisco without Doug Goldman and his family.
Place to get a little insight into our dad is on the dance floor. I think nobody expects him to boogie the way he does.
That is very true.
He's very into dancing.
I always find him fun. I mean, sitting next to him at a dinner, kind of walking with him. I mean, he always has something interesting to say.
Rolling out, looks long.
This year, Doug and Lisa graciously invited me to a Cal football game, and it was a wonderful day sharing stories with Doug and Lisa. And during the football game, Doug leaned over to me and asked me if I had met the chancellor yet. And I'd said I had met the chancellor, and he leaned over back and he said, "You know what, I want to introduce you to the chancellor." And it was at that time I realized that for Doug and Lisa, it wasn't just about writing a check.
I teach in a school that bears the name, the Goldman School of Public Policy, which is testament to not only the Goldman family's dedication to good government and policies that help everyone, but also Doug and Lisa's dedication in particular, because it's not just the money, it's also their ongoing involvement that counts.
Always be part of the solution, not part of the problem. I think that's a legacy that he wants to continue. He learned it from his family and he wants to pass it on to his own children.
To be a part of that legacy and to build it, to help it evolve and grow is a special opportunity and responsibility for me.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Goldman, and along with my brothers, Jason and Matthew, we are thrilled to be presenting our father, Doug Goldman, with the JCRC Jewish Civic Leadership Award. This is such a fitting award for our dad, who for decades has devoted time, energy, leadership, and support to make our Jewish community and our Bay Area community a better place. This commitment is based on values that were passed down from our dad's grandparents to his parents, to our father, and now from our parents to us. Values that we too hope to continue to emulate in our Jewish community and civic involvement. These values are so wonderfully embodied by JCRC that it's no coincidence that our dad has time and again worked together with JCRC to realize these values in the public sphere in pursuit of justice and a better Jewish future for our community. Dad, we are so proud to be standing here today to present you with such a well-deserved award.
Thank you very much. And go Bears. Sorry, that's the wrong speech. Being recognized for activities done behind the scenes, it seems like a contradiction, no? Frankly, doing things quietly yet effectively behind the scenes is a role that comes comfortably to me. It is the example that my dear mother, of blessed memory, exhibited throughout her life. While I have never been motivated by recognition, I must confess that it is nice to occasionally receive some. To Doug Kahn and JCRC's board of directors, and Doug kept insisting to me that you were all behind this, to all of you I say, thank you very much. It is extremely kind and generous of you to acknowledge me in this way. Thank you. To be a Jew in the 21st century is far more of a blessing than has been our historical precedent. Yes, there have been similar moments in our collective history. The Golden Age in Spain during the Middle Ages, Germany prior to the rise of Hitler and Nazism. Times when we Jews enjoyed not only the privileges of citizenship, but also the comfort of success and stature in those communities. But long ago, I learned the warning elucidated by Jorge Santayana. That's not Jorge Santana of Malo fame. Santayana famously wrote, and I quote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." It is a warning that we Jews are wise to never forget. Our history cautions us that change can occur at any time. No amount of comfort or security will eliminate the ugly scourge of anti-Semitism. That is not to say that it is inevitable, but rather we must always be vigilant to observe it and eliminate it. Thus, to secure our rightful place in society, we must recognize and rally against attempts to abridge our rights. Simultaneously, we must continue our historic role in this country of doing similarly for others whose rights are either being abridged or whose rights have not yet even been established. Consequently, I'm honored to share this evening with Therese Stewart and my good friend Dennis Herrera. I congratulate you both on your momentous work. For myself, the battles that have recently brought JCRC and me together began with the fight to prevent the Student Council at UC Berkeley from being dragged through the ugly political stench of trashing Israel under the pretext of righting a supposed humanitarian wrong. The ugliness we observed
was the newest cover for anti-Semitism, now in the popularized form of strident anti-Semitism. The campaign for boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning Israel has appeared with varying levels of acrimony and success. High on their perpetrators' list are academic and religious institutions. We have seen vestiges of these attempts before. The boycott of Israel by the Arab League goes back to 1921. Fortunately, the impact of all of these efforts around the globe has been relatively negligible, but it is most disturbing. Indeed, the latest concerted attack to visit American college campuses occurred 2 months ago when a resolution was passed by the National Council of the American Studies Association. I am thrilled that my alma mater's current chancellor, Nicholas Dirks, immediately and publicly denounced their despicable call for an academic boycott of Israel. As offensive and unfortunate as this movement is, JCRC assists all of us by remaining vigilant and responding whenever needed. Ultimately, the JCRC has been both our partner and leader in interfacing with our community. I applaud this organization under the superb and thoughtful leadership of my friend and cohort Doug Kahn. JCRC is constantly improving our relations, whether by exposing civic leaders to our community, including the State of Israel, by attacking anti-Semitism wherever it may arise, by providing a voice to the voiceless, indeed by righting wrongs while simultaneously unifying our society. JCRC has created a most impressive, multifaceted approach to their mission. All of us, Jews and non-Jews, are better off as a result of their work. Thus, I thank all of you who, in supporting me tonight, have supported them. Thank you. Thank you as well to those who took the time to assist in creating tonight's event. I include tonight's chairs, Don and Janie Friend, and those with whom I worked in a small part on this, cinematographer, editor, and producer, I'm sure she has more titles, Bethany Hornthal, and the folks at JCRC itself, including Doug Kahn, Abby Porth, and Elka Looks. I especially thank those who suffered being asked to speak about me, let alone to do it in front of a camera. I was going to thank all the people, but as I was watching, the list that I was familiar with grew much too long. So I do thank my family for their participation. And speaking of my family, they're both my most important activity and my most important contribution to society. Please join me in acknowledging, and I personally, in front of all of you, thank Lisa, Jason, Matthew, and Jennifer. And while I'm at it, let's round out our circle with the JCCSF's most strident exerciser, my very own mother-in-law, Eleanor Myers. I note that there have been a couple of these honorific occasions for me over the past few months. As I indicated earlier, I find them somewhat embarrassing, nice but embarrassing. So now I shall climb back into my shell, go back to being a donor, a worker, a supporter, a doer, all in my far more comfortable, quiet way. Thank you all very much.
Can we have one more round of applause for our outstanding awardees? Doug, Dennis, and Terry, thank you for the privilege of honoring you for your extraordinary work every day, for the way in which you inspire us, and for your beautiful words tonight. We are just so thrilled to have this extraordinary occasion to honor you. I also want to offer special thanks to all our program participants, Rosalind, Michael, Jason, Matthew, and Jennifer, and to our wonderful event chairs, Donnie and Janie. Finally, on behalf of JCRC, our leadership and staff, we thank everyone here for your generous support. I am thrilled to announce that tonight we broke our previous record for JCRC's annual event. Thank you. On that note, please join us for a festive dessert reception in the atrium. Thank you so much for celebrating JCRC and our honorees on this very special evening.